Hey, howdy and hello, folks. Welcome into T1A. We are talking running back tier rankings, half PPR. Let's fucking get into it.
Ready to go. Welcome back into T1A. If it's your first time here, make sure to subscribe that we're getting everything that we're putting out. If you like the video, make sure you like the video. Even if you only watch 20 seconds of it, just fucking hit like. RB tiers, half PPR. We're breaking these guys down. Only reason that we are doing this because it is the best fucking way to draft. If you think a guy in the first round has the same capability of being the RB overall #1 as a guy going in the third round, why the fuck are you taking that guy in the first round? Grab your top end wide receiver.
Why are you reaching on him if you feel that he's the same?
If you got, this helps you with tiers. It helps you break down how you're drafting. It helps you look at your entire draft board. It helps you look into the 4th round, 5th round, and realize where you're getting absolute values because your home leagues aren't fucking pulling it off. I don't know what situation you're in. Either way, these are our running back tiers, half PPR redraft for this year, only this year.
Yeah. So I'll start it off because I'm the only one that put one person in my first tier, and that was CMC.
Lucy?
For me, it's CMC's volume, his receiving work, his rushing work, his goal line work, scoring from the red zone, the 10 zone, like it's all in capability. It's all been shown what he can do. And the thing for me that really set him into tier 1 by himself is if I draft CMC, I'm okay taking in an even later running back 2 than what I have in my tier 2 guys, where I feel like maybe I should get just a little bit better guy to be the second on this. But for me, if I have CMC, I feel I can let that floor sink a little bit more.
Yeah, and the only difference in between what we're saying, I mean, I have team love bias, of course. I'm a Niner fan, so I, of course, think Christian McCaffrey is going to be a beast this year and just kill it and put up the most fantasy points in a single year that a player has ever put up. But I'm also a little bit realistic to it. And I do realize like there are other guys in that offense, and everything has to go right for Christian McCaffrey to become the #1 overall running back. And that doesn't mean like he can't just stumble into it because of, like you're saying, the amount of volume where he's getting used at in that offense. I agree completely. However, I do have to put a couple of guys in there with him because I don't feel like Christian McCaffrey is the only guy who has the opportunity this year to be the #1 overall guy. And those are the guys we're putting in our tier 1. Yeah. Now, I'm not just throwing shade on him. Like, I've got badass names next to him. We're talking CMC in the same tier as Barkley, Eckler, and Bijan. And I think Bijan's probably going to be the biggest talking point in this, although a lot of people who are in Dynasty already have a huge hard-on for that guy. Yep. And so they already think he's the #1 overall running back. But there's a chance he's not, right? Like, he still has to get a ton of volume. That offense still has to give him the opportunity to score touchdowns to become the #1 guy. Barkley, of course, damn near. I mean, shit, he was banged up a little bit last year. It was a brand new offense. They had nothing else around them. And again, this year, it's the second year into an offense. He signed the 1-year deal. They still have nothing around him in offense. So he's the focal point, right? It did add Darren Waller. I'm not going to jump on the Darren Waller train. Do I think he's actually going to be decent this year? And yes, be able to contribute to your fantasy teams? Yes. But I think he's like a league winner? No, I don't think he's a league winner. He's been playing fucking preseason games and joint practices. Wait until he gets his old ass, who hasn't done shit in 3 years, into a real NFL football game and then does it. Then I'll believe it. I'm not going to project that this guy's going to all of a sudden, Marty McFly his way back to the fucking 3 years ago and be relevant again. So that just leaves Barkley again as the focal point of his offense. And it's the same thing with Eckler. The biggest thing with Eckler to me is Kellen Moore coming in and what he did with Tony Pollard in spare time. He knows how to use a guy in spare time. They don't have a Zeke Elliott on the Chargers, right? It's Eckler and every other dumb shit bitch they brought in there to try to just pound the rock up in there, and they have not been able to do it. I can't see how that's going to change this year. So Eckler, I feel like it's a big run on it. And then Bijan. And I know we're going to want to talk a little bit about Bijan.
I feel like I want to talk a little bit about both of those guys. So Saquon and Bijan and Eckler. So let's go to Saquon. Just, you still wonder if they're going to keep giving him the same volume they had last year. Eckler, if Mike Williams is healthy, if Keenan Allen is healthy, Quentin Johnston, it lowered the volume of receiving work that Eckler received when those guys were all on the field. So that does play a role into how I saw his projections for the year. And that's why he's just that little bit below of CMC, where they had all those things last year and he was still getting that volume.
Mm-hmm.
So those were just like, there's just that like little bit for me where, again, I felt comfortable with CMC up above and these next guys down below because they had just enough to take off of their premium workload. Now we get into Bijan, and what I worry about most is touchdown upside
Yeah.
because is that offense going to be efficient enough to get him the touchdowns to get him to that point where he could be up in the top 5?
Yeah, and then the flip side of that though is Tyler Algier was fucking garbage last year. That team was fucking garbage last year, and that kid still ripped off 100K.
Yeah,
Bijan is an otherworldly talent. Like I think he's going to come in the NFL. He's going to get plenty of look. He's going to get plenty of run. Anytime they're near the goal line, he's going to be there. He'll be a weapon in the red zone too because of his ability to come out of the backfield and catch a football and make people miss.
Yeah.
He's just going to see so much fucking volume that it's hard not to say like, hey, this is a guy I feel like at the end of the year, if everything goes right for him, he stays healthy, he's going to have the opportunity to be the number one guy.
Not discounting it, just that's how I'm seeing it, and that's why it's great to, if you're in your drafts, how are you breaking it down? How do you see these tiers? So that's why we're bringing them as two different things and not a consensus, is so we can have some discussion around that for everyone.
Yeah, you're going to have different points of views, and I think, and us doing it this way, all we're doing is showing you how we break down tiers and how we view the guys, and then fuck, it's on to you. Apply it how you want. Build your own tiers, mix our tiers. Either way, it's going to help out.
Make your own damn choices.
Yeah.
Do your own damn research.
Yeah, damn grown ass man. Make your own damn choices.
Or women. Anyways, so in tier 2, you have Chubb, Pollard, Henry, Kamara. For me, in my tier 2 was Chubb, Saquon, Bijan, Eckler. But in my tier 3, I have Henry, Pollard, JT, Jacobs, Kamara. So we're not far off. If I put CMC with my one, tier, we're not far off on how we have these guys.
Yeah, we're just tiered off just a little different here. But it's not, we're basically just splitting hairs on who the top guys are, right? Because all you did was just made your own tier for CMC, right? If you take CMC out of that tier and put everybody else in your tier 2 up and then drop Chubb down into your tier 2, we're basically the same, right? So that was the only difference we had in this. That's why we spent a little bit of time talking about that top tier. But the second tier, these are guys that, especially in your tier, I like, because these are guys who have RB1 overall potential. They could get there, right? They'll need the volume and anything to go right. So these are why they're in the tier 2, because you're not trying to elitely go up and get those kind of guys. You're just going to kind of see where they're at, and you're going to get the good values in the second and third rounds where they're falling to you at. Of course, I agree with you at having, Saquon, Bijan, and Eckler up this high. Chubb, I fully agree on you with. Your tier 3, so Pollard, Henry, Kamara are the ones where we agree on.
Correct.
In a tier-ish of 3 kind of. I've got them up in the tier 2. But that, like we said, that's only because of that split. Those guys also could just be low-end RB1s because they don't get the volume, or they end up in the upper echelon as a tier 1, or they end up right where the fuck we're putting them at. What you need to do in your drafts is make sure that you're paying attention to who the guys are that you're targeting, what offenses you like, how you're building your team. But to get off of the drafting part, let's try to make sense here now of where we feel these guys are tiering and breaking apart, because you have 4 tiers for your top 12 guys. Yeah, and I have 3 tiers for top 14 guys. So let's just talk out those last couple tiers we got and kind of place those guys where we feel they go.
So JT, Jacobs, Kamara. So let's talk on these 3 next here.
Mm-hmm.
So JT, I think despite his situation, no matter where he's going to be, is still got great potential as a running back. It really doesn't matter the system because he's a great running back. So if he goes somewhere else, I think that improves his stock versus staying in Indianapolis.
I have him down lower. Like we have the match in tier 3, right? Which means I think he's going to be a lower end RB1. And the reason I put that in there, this is half PPR. So you need to make sure you're a part of the passing game and you're getting the ball. Whether he stays in Indy and plays with A-Rich, where I don't think he gets a lot of dump-off stuff because A-Rich is a fucking running quarterback, and they don't generally do that. let alone he's not that prone to it as is. And if he goes somewhere else, even then, it's not been a big part of his game. Even when he's played with older quarterbacks that have a frequent, repetitive showing of dumping off to the running backs, he still didn't completely shine in that.
Yeah.
So in half PPR, the guys who catch the ball, the guys who are prominent in their passing games, those are guys I want to put above them. JT, he's going to need a absolute most efficient year he's put together, I think, this year to even come close to the RB1. So I got to put him down, right, in that lower end to where you're looking at him closer to 8 through 12, maybe even lower. Who knows with all this contract thing going on.
And the way I was looking at it here is like I've got him at 8, you've got him sitting around 9. Like we're not far off. It's just how we're viewing the players in the same tier.
Yeah, I feel there's other guys like Henry, Kamara, even Kamara missing 3 games. Just seeing him in the preseason and like he looks pissed off. And again, I look for players who look like they're going to have a chip on their shoulder coming in the year. Derek Carr is fantastic at dumping the ball off and stretching of defense deep. So a defense always has to keep in mind, like we cannot suck up on Alvin Kamara and get up there on those lower routes or those pop-out routes. They got to stay back on the deep ball. That opens up a lot for Kamara. I feel like he has a really big year ahead of him. And then same with Henry. Like I've kept saying it and saying it and saying it before. Sooner or later, the cliff's going to come. But the fact of the matter is, you have to take consideration of a guy pushing into the RB4 to RB7 range if he's going to touch the ball 400 times a year. Like I don't give a shit how inefficient you are. 400 times a year, you're going to be in that range of running back, and you're the main goal line guy. So like I got to put you up a little bit higher in that rank. I might have moved Jacobs up a little bit higher in my tier 3 if I'd have known before we made these that he was going to sign. But even then, you had 1 year that you did it. So yeah, I'm going to throw you up there in the RB1 ranks. What I got him at?
It's still on the lower side. Like I have him at 9, you got him at 10. So
yeah, right.
They're right on that threshold.
Yeah, and I kind of put him in the same. He could go up there and be a top 3 running back if he has the same type of year he had last year. And I put him in the same boat as Ramondre Stevenson because Ramondre Stevenson has the same type of year he had last year with a little bit of breaks. He's in the same boat. But if he doesn't, right? If Zeke Elliott comes in there and snipes out 6 or 7 touchdowns, if Josh McDaniels decides, hey, we should probably use Zamir White more because this guy is probably going to bail after this year and start to figure out what we've got, and he starts seeing more touchdowns, that's all it's going to take to drop them from RB3 to RB8. But that still leaves them in the same tiers, right? And that's what we're flexing right here right now is where are these guys going to flex in between RB1 and 3 and 4 and 7 and whatnot. And then I like to add on because there's always these guys that are sitting like right outside the RB2.
The cusp.
Yeah, and then they sneak in there because, they had one big-ass game where they scored 3 touchdowns and had 100 yards and everything else was pretty average, but it was just enough to sneak them into the RB1s.
Yeah.
The guys I want to make sure that I'm bringing up to everybody, I've got Dobbin Jones and Aaron Jones and Javonte Williams all kind of in that back end, going to sneak in there and be one of those chances to overtake one of these other guys and actually be in the RB1 conversation for next year or this year.
Well, and that's what I have as my tier 4 that round out my top 12 is Ramondre and Walker. So we'll get to Walker when we talk about your next year because that's where we kind of split pretty good. But Ramondre is sitting here pretty solidly for me. I still feel like he's going to have receiving work. He's going to have goal line work, even though he wasn't greatly efficient at it last year. He's still going to have a few touches. And then he still can have big plays, and he's still going to receive a lot of the bulk rushing work.
Yeah,
I still think he's got enough in there volume-wise and a great defense that they're still going to use him to grind out games. They're still going to use him for, all the stuff that they need him to be.
That's still a Belichick offense. It's a Belichick team. They don't want Mac Jones to go out there and be slinging the ball 50 times. They want to pound the fucking rock. They want to play defense. They want to go out and win games effectively. And Ramondre fits so perfect into that. Like watching him play last year and then like coming into comparisons this year and seeing where he's going to be at, like flashes of Corey Dillon. Like the kid, just the way he fits in that offense, how they run him, where they run him. Yeah, and Corey Dillon, if you don't know who he was a badass back in the day. Go check him out.
Well, and even seeing that coming, like Ramondre coming into the offense, at the time they had, more veteran running backs, and Belichick's going to trust them. So you got to see him kind of have a little bit of a leash last year and got to run a little bit and got to, be more involved as a main part of the committee. and now he's the one. They've already sent off Pierre Strong. They brought in Zeke. Kevin Harris isn't going to be nearly the factor. Like, it's going to be Ramondre and Zeke. And Zeke,
Mhm.
we know, isn't super efficient out there, except for in the red zone or
Yeah, I
goal
think
line.
that's the only concern I have, and I don't even think it's that big of a concern. I don't think he's washed, and I don't think they brought him in um, as like, wow, we need you to come in and help us, get over the top here.
Yeah.
It was probably more like, wow, we don't have anybody behind Ramondre who can block a linebacker coming in up the middle at Mac Jones. We don't have anybody behind Ramondre who knows how to nose out a 2 yard 3rd and 2 that we need to
Yeah.
get converted. You know what I mean? And so I think that was a good add on their part. The trade on Pierre Strong, I think, just put an exclamation point on the fact that they weren't happy with their running back depth. Not really what they had with Ramondre, but just who was behind him.
So it's really hard to argue with your rest of your tier three. Kind of you have that fringe because, it's all how you see your players.
Yeah.
Najee, Dobbins, Aaron Jones, Javante. Like, it's going to be, they're going to be the main back in their offense. Are the offense is going to be efficient / is that player going to be efficient? And that's why they're on that cusp of like, well, they could be ones, they could be twos. And for me, I was just more committed into like, these are going to be the top twos. And so for me, and like my tier two guys, I only have 2 tiers because I thought there was a lot that kind of fit that mold.
Right. I just broke it down a little bit more. Now, you got Walker up in your top 12. I've got
Correct.
Walker at 15. It's
Yep.
not like it's a huge discrepancy. My big thing on it is what they added. I mean, they added JSN. That's going to take away some short passes that would go to the running backs.
Mm-hmm.
They added Charbonnet. That's going to take some short passes that would have went to Walker and some rushing work. Plus, Charbonnet is a lot fucking bigger. Walker is the better running back than Charbonnet. If anybody's been following, I really don't fucking like Charbonnet. But in this case, it doesn't matter if I like him or not. The fact of the matter is, he's on the Seahawks. He's the number 2 running back, and the Seahawks run a committee. They're not going to go out there and just send Walker out there and be like, we're going to pound you for 25 carries, and we're just going to, we'll rest you every once in a while with Charbonnet. I feel like that's going to be a little bit split up. And the fact of the matter is, the Seattle offense isn't garbage, sadly, which it fucking was, but it's a decent offense. So there's going to be scoring opportunities. Charbonnet is going to get look also along with Walker. So it's hard for me to take a guy like that and be like, yeah, I could have put him on the fringe. I think I had him on my fringe top, our number 1 running backs. But just that and thinking about it was like, you know what? Plus he's always fucking hurt. He's hurt right now. I don't fucking get that shit. So
that's the RB's position. That's the hard part about everything is doing this forecast. You don't forecast injury. He's already back to practice, but you wonder if that's going to linger. But for me, what I've seen out of the Seattle offense is there is a bigger pie percentage to a running back. And Pete Carroll does lean on that running back a touch more. And I think that just is Walker, and he's going to get those more quality carries than what Charbonnet is going to be able to take away from.
Mm-hmm.
And that was enough for me to put him at the fringe of that, like above Najee, above Javante, because he's coming back from injury. Najee, you just wonder if Jalen Warren's going to do something more. Aaron Jones, that offense, what is Green Bay? So it was just enough questions that I just peeled it back, and I was like, with what I saw out of Walker last year, I just feel his game is all around solid. His running is efficient, and despite injuries, because we can't forecast that, that's where I felt he was just good enough to be that 12th player for me.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I could have snuck him up there. I had him there. And then thought about it, looked at some of the stats, looked at just back in like every week he had something. Yeah. And like we said, we're not going to put in injury, but I feel like if a guy like that is going to be a little bit banged up, how easy is it for that team to then switch the split carry of 60-40 over the other guy, right? Like now you're going to see 40 this week. So it was more along those lines of it. Another guy that I have.
He did have abdominal hernia surgery before the season last year.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, this awkward ass shit. And then he was banged up throughout the year completely. Every fucking week there was something on him. Mm-hmm. Right. And then already we're not even playing real fucking games yet. Boom, he's already had some reasons for practice. It's just like, man, fuck, I hate that kind of shit. So that was probably a little bit more of an emotional move to put him down. I
Well,
wouldn't have any issue with people calling
again, I
Walker
think
an
that's why
RB1.
it's great that we have disparities and that we're showcasing this because everybody's going to have their certain things that they key on. And if you're keying on injury and injury prone, you're going to have Walker lower, Javante lower, and Najee and Aaron Jones higher.
Definitely.
So,
in this same tier here, which is like the beginning of my RB2s, which, what we've talked about, they could be fringe RB1s, a couple plays here, a couple touchdowns there, whatever the hell. But I've got Dameon Pierce and Joe Mixon in this early RB2 tier.
mm-hmm.
I fucking hate putting Joe Mixon right there. We've talked about this a couple times. I hate putting him there because I was the guy, like, the past 2 years, I've been the dude. I own Joe Mixon. I want to cash out on him right now because I saw this shit coming this year.
Yeah.
He's got like a 3 more year window. I sucked it up for 2 years, and I think he was a top 10 running back both those years, and now you can't fucking get rid of him in dynasties. But in redrafts, he lines up for another year of looking at 70 to 80 catches. He's going to see most of the fucking carries. He's going to see all the goal line work. Chris Evans, Travion Williams, Chris Brown, those guys, right? Chris Brown? Chase Brown being there. Those guys, they're going to be just fill-in guys behind Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's probably going to miss a couple games this year. And somehow he's still going to fucking end up as like RB 10, 11, or 12. It fucking blows my mind.
Have that 2-3 weeks where he scores 2-3 touchdowns.
Yeah, where he puts up 35 fucking points for you, and then it's like, well, I can't bench him now. And so you got to start him, and you're pissed about the whole fucking situation. I hate picking Joe Mixon. I do. Yeah. It's an ugly pick.
And that's why he sits so solidly in second tier for both of us.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, if you're picking in your drafts and you went wide receiver, or quarterback, or you just punted the running back position until a little bit later, these are the guys that you're going to be wanting to look at to target out. Yeah. And Mixon's one of those guys. I'm sure he's not going to like every week put you up 15 fucking points, but he's going to have those spike weeks. He's going to help you out in the long run. And in the end of it all, he's probably going to end up being an RB1, which pisses me off. Let's move on to Dameon Pierce. I
really like Dameon Pierce. It was very hard to bury him in this top second tier that I have because I really think he's got a great workload ahead of him, a great amount of volume that he's going to see, and he's improved a little bit in his receiving work, so he's going to get some receptions, but that offense.
Now
and the defense, and that's something to look at when you have a running back. And we talked about it with Ramondre, and we didn't really touch on it in Walker, but I think it's an important point that the Seattle defense is improving. So
it is, but
it's not great. But
yeah, I also don't think that I don't think in Pierce's situation the defense is going to matter as much because even if the defense is decent, the offense probably won't be able to keep up with too many NFL teams, right? Yeah. If they're going to be down 14-0, it's going to change the entire fucking outlook of how they play the rest of the game.
Yeah.
But it's Dameon Pierce going to be catching balls out of the backfield. It's Dameon Pierce that ran all the snaps with the first team in preseason. He didn't get subbed out. He didn't get none of that shit. He was the guy. Now he's going to get breaks, right? Because he's still only a full season removed from Florida where he never saw full workload. But I do know through seeing training camps, tweets and things like that Dameon Pierce actually went into the weight room, put on the fucking not extra muscle, but like toned himself up, got himself ready for a full workload. Has been practicing
a little bit.
Has been practicing. I mean, he may have lost a couple of pounds. That's where he was hovering. But
yeah,
this kid has gotten ready. Like he got the taste of last year, what it was like to be the full workhorse, get all the carries. And you could see him wear down in like week 10, 11, 12. This year he's primed. He's ready to go. And for anybody who's like that offense, here's the thing that I'm really hoping this pans out because this is going to be an opinion piece. Right? This is be an opinion piece. I don't really have any facts to back this up because I can't speak for what a coach is going to fucking do.
Right.
But when your offense sucks so goddamn much that in the preseason, your quarterback can't even hit his back step to throw the fucking football before a linebacker is in his face to sack him, you have offensive line problems. The beauty and what I'm seeing potentially happen in Houston is that offense becomes very run heavy, where they don't give a shit. We'll come out, we'll run the ball 3 goddamn times. If you stop us, we can't get a first down. Fine, we'll punt it, we'll figure this shit out later. But with that comes a shit ton of play action. You start to play to your offensive line. You start to use different schemes to run the ball. And Tom Brady was the best at this, where if we can't run the fucking ball, that's fine. We'll hike it. We're going to pretend like we're going to pass it when the running back's just going to fucking take off, and I'm just going to dump it to him. And that's how we'll run the ball. We'll get 5 or 6
Dumping it
yards
right
off of
over
that.
that defensive line. Oh, you guys are all blitzing in. Fantastic.
Yeah, just out on that little, like, okay, you're running that little wheel route. I'm gonna throw it to you. You hit me 5 yards. That's a 5-yard carry, quote unquote.
Yeah.
That is where I'm starting to see Houston potentially end up, because they did bring over guys that were within the Niners, so they're bringing over the Shanahan system, which is really, really play action based. So if they do that, and Pierce is a part of play action, he's going to see a shitload of passes. CJ Stroud, for all that he's gone through in the preseason and how bad he's looked behind the line, any pass he has gotten off has been on the fucking money. This kid has an NFL arm.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if they can get a little protection, if they can build the offense around him, not only will CJ Stroud do better, but Dameon Pierce will be the beneficiary of that. And I think that offense, garbage time. Think about Detroit last year, top 5 offense. Why? Because your defense fucking sucked and you had to go score points. CJ Stroud and Houston Texans, even if they only put up 21 points or 17 points in a game, it's going to be very centric to a couple of guys on offense. And I think Pierce is a big piece of that.
So we've already seen the Texans make a move, got the tackle from Arizona.
Yep.
I think getting Schultz was a great move as well, because he's a truly balanced tight end. He can block, he can do some running, he can do some receiving. Like, he's a good balanced tight end that's going to be an essential 6th lineman for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we just really didn't get to see a lot of because it's preseason. So we're going to see a little bit more of that balanced run. And I think it's going to be, like you're saying, very eccentric around the run, play action, because play action is a rookie quarterback's best friend, because the defense has to key on something, not the rookie quarterback.
Yeah. Not the fucking sitting duck. Poor kid.
Yeah, I got to say, Bryce and CJ had a rough preseason.
Yeah. They're going to have rough years. But
welcome to the NFL, Rook. Bryce got blindsided so bad.
Yeah, those poor
bad.
fuckers.
But
poor bastards.
anyways, let's continue on here. So we've gone to Pierce, and now we kind of get into that split. Like, I still have Akers, Etienne, and Montgomery in this first tier of the twos.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting with, let's see, in your second tier, you have Gibbs, Montgomery, Etienne, Bigsby, Swift, Madison, Akers. So very much like me, like you there's that big line. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have a very similar situation that's like 5, 10, 15 points might separate them at the end of the year.
Yeah, and I put a lot of these guys together. Gibbs, Montgomery, they fall back-to-back in my rankings. Yep. Etienne and Bigsby, they fall back-to-back in my rankings on each other. A lot of that is going to just come down to, is that a 50-50 split, and who's going to see the touchdowns? And that's why they're all the way in my 5th tier, because these guys are going to produce on offenses. They've just got somebody sitting in front of them right now that you're not sure if they're going to get the better share of that split. And it is why I have Gibbs above Montgomery, and it's why I have Etienne above Bigsby, is because I think those guys are the ones who are going to get those splits, right? Like, and it's not just splits like carries, right? I'm talking about like how much volume they see, how many passes they're going to see, who's going to see some goal line work, things like that. Between Gibbs and Montgomery, Gibbs is a passing that he's going to bring in, right? They've already shown that they're going to utilize him in the passing game. He's already proven that he's a fucking weapon, man. You get him with a linebacker, where's the safety? Because that's the asshole who's actually probably going to tackle Gibbs.
Yeah.
And then Montgomery right behind him, because he's going to see the goal line work and he's going to see all the running. And he is a better pure running back than Jamal Williams was last year. He's younger.
Yes.
He's just an upgrade from Williams.
And then that's why the Lions went out and got him so early. Like,
yeah,
hungry hippoed his ass. Like, oh, I got him.
Yeah, and it was a great sign. It was a fucking beautiful signing. And then the Etienne Bigsby thing, just from what we've seen in preseason, the splits of Etienne and what he's done in the past, he hasn't really proven that, like, hey, I'm this great fucking running back for you guys.
Old coaching regime pick.
Yeah, and in a first rounder, stupid. Like, there's probably any way to get him the fuck out of there. So Bigsby comes in, and he is a pounder and a grinder, and he's shown this preseason and in the past that he can catch the ball out of the backfield. If there's a case for a 50-50 split right now going on between two really good running backs, I think this is one of the biggest ones you can be looking at right now. Keep your eye on this, especially because of the price difference between Etienne and Bigsby. If you've got both these guys in the same tier and you're looking at where they're going and they're back-to-back, make your pick. And yes, history has shown a little bit that taking the second guy doesn't always work out. But if you're using these guys as backups, like I'm sure Gibbs is going ahead of Montgomery in ADP, and I'm sure ETN is going ahead of Bigsby in ADP.
A
I'm
round or
actually
two
very
for ETN and Bigsby.
right. So I'm actually very sure about that shit. So if you get your top guy, say you drafted CMC, and then you just are waiting and you pick Montgomery and Bigsby, like you can't feel too shitty about that team. You're going to be
No.
bouncing back. Your RB2 is going to be Montgomery and Bigsby, and CMC is your starting guy. It's like that's the beauty of seeing tiers.
Yes, absolutely. And we were talking previously about Bigsby, and just like there could be a possibility where he takes a higher percent by the end of this year from ETN than what people are kind of realizing, or it could be ETN. But
Yeah,
like Bigsby is one of those running backs that could supplant the guy that's in front of him, and he has the skills, ability, body size, talent to do so. So it's really a wait and see.
yeah. I've heard comparisons of Bigsby to Akers because of the college atmosphere they were in, the offensive line they had behind them, the talent they have as a running back, and I agree. I think Bigsby has Cam Akers vibes all over his ass. And think about where Cam Akers is going in your drafts the year he came out and kicked ass.
This is also where he's at in the same tier. So Akers at the end of this tier for you.
Ta-da-da!
And I have Akers in there as well. And it's just because it's Akers, and then, everybody else that's available there is, Zach Evans and Kyron Williams. Like those just don't seem like they pose as much of a threat to his workload. But what keeps Akers down here is like, what's going to happen with that offense?
That offensive line is bad. It is really bad. And I don't give a shit how good you are, even if you're the best running back in the league. If your offense is piss fucking poor and your O-line can't block for you, you're going to just sit there and average sub-3 a carry. You're going to have an Algier year where they're going to feed you 250 fucking carries. You're going to hit 1,000 yards, and people around you are going to be so fucking bummed. Because I guarantee you, people who are drafting Cam Akers right now are thinking he has low-end RB1 upside, when in all reality, ladies and gentlemen, this guy could be very low-end RB2 and very frustrating in your lineups week to week.
Ladies and gentlemen.
But he's up there. He's up there because he is a guy who is going to see the carries. If there's, when we're making these tiers, you're putting together guys that are going to finish in that top 12 to 24 running backs, and he's going to see the volume. And fucking Tyler Algier could do it last year on that shit offense. I'm sure Akers could figure it out with Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp on the same offense. You hope.
So we go into the second part of our twos here. For me, it's one tier of 4, and you still have kind of 2 more tiers sitting as your RB2sies.
Yeah, I kind of broke this down as I got into this. I was like, what the fuck am I going to do here? Because I started putting my top 12 together and realized, like, man, there's 2 other guys I want to put in here. And so I'm not just going to like plant a flag like, these are the top 12. Because that's not always how it works out, right? And these guys are all getting drafted around the same area. So I just put in my top 14. Well, then my RB2sies are 21 guys. So that's 36 total dudes. That basically means I took 12 other dudes that were falling in behind the top 24. But all these guys have the opportunity to be RB2s by the end of the year. This is where the point where we start getting kind of fickle, right? So I have a top 24 in my first top 5 tiers. Tier 6 and tier 5 in my RB2 guys are, I could be an RB2, a high-end RB3, somewhere in that range. I'm just going to be pushing the guys that are the top 24. At some point, if they miss a game or 2, I sneak in there.
Yep. And this really starts to be that tier of like, well, there's a lot more doubt or questions or injury or something that is around them where you're just really hesitant, but the volume or workload or past efficiency really shows that they're going to still be good, but not enough to really like lock them in.
Yeah, and so like in our differences here, like you got Mixon all the way at the bottom of your RB2s. I've clearly got them a little bit higher than that. Sanders we're pretty much in the same boat on. Connor we're in the same boat on. Breece Hall we're pretty much in the same boat on. And
now, don't get us wrong. This is Breece for this year. Like, this isn't dynasty value Breece. This is
the redraft.
We understand Dalvin Cook's there. Izzy is still there. And, the offense is still going to be great. But Breece is still returning from an ACL injury. So
yeah, they didn't sign Dalvin Cook for no fucking reason.
To a 1 year.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook's there for a fucking reason. And I've actually got Dalvin and Brees right there back to back in my rankings. Dalvin's ahead of him. The reason I have Dalvin ahead of him is because, like I just said, you signed the guy for a fucking reason. You didn't just bring him in because Brees is all good to go and he's going to roll into it. No, everybody understands that a running back coming off an ACL injury is going to be hampered a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why I put these guys in there. Now, do I think they have the potential to be RB2s at the end of the year? Sure. But I also feel like Brees is going to get a little bit healthy. They signed Dalvin so that he could take it easy for the first couple of weeks. And then they just start eating at each other's workloads. They both do the same things really well. Both catch the ball out of the backfield really well. They both run between the tackles and outside of the tackles really well. I think this is going to be a 1-2 punch. Good luck on figuring out who it is, but I think they eat into each other's workload so much, you're not going to be able to rely on one of them at a time, and you're probably not going to end up with that RB2 finish.
Yep, for sure.
I hated putting Connor here, though, because I really don't like Connor.
But that's where, again, it's like you're hesitant because of past injury. You're hesitant because of the offense.
Yeah.
But he still has the lead role, the production, and you can't forecast injury, so you can't rule him out because you know he's going to miss like 4 games anyways.
Exactly.
But it's just going to be like, yeah, he's in there.
Yeah, agreed on that. And then Sanders is kind of the same thing. Like Miles Sanders I have in this tier, and you have him basically same kind of area.
Yep.
It's what is your past, what you've done. You're going to a new offense. Are you going to be the workload? Are you going to get enough volume? It's a rookie quarterback. Kind of all the same questions we had with CJ Stroud. The only difference in this is that I don't know that Bryce Young has enough around him just yet.
Yeah.
To elevate Miles Sanders. I think Dameon Pierce is a better talent, a better running back, a better overall athlete than Miles Sanders is. So that is the difference between those two. Yep. So if you put them in the same situations, you have a less talented guy. That less talented guy is probably going to do less.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? In theory, Einstein.
I've
also got Zamir White in here, but that was before Josh Jacobs came back because I thought, like, man, if Zamir White's going to be the dude for the first 10 fucking weeks of this season, like, yeah, he's got a fucking shot to be an RB2, but, kick that shit out.
Yeah.
I've got Pacheco in here also, but that's because of his time missed and the fact that KC does not run the ball at the red zone, and this kid is just going to see between the 20s work and
40-yard grinder.
Get it. Exactly. Is he still a guy worth going out and getting? Shit, yeah, because he has the opportunity to be an RB2.
Yeah. These doesn't mean he can't score or he won't.
Yeah, these guys are a little later in your draft where you're like, I kind of RB heroed it or went RB0, and these guys are going to start piling up and you try to get like 5 or 6 of these fucking dudes on your roster.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with CMC. Like, I feel good with CMC and then dropping down and getting, a Sanders, Connor, those guys in this tier, and I feel all right with them as my 2. Yeah. Where if I'm getting Chubb, Saquon, Bijan, I definitely want to have more of that Najee, Javonte, Dobbins, Pierce, a little bit more higher volume. So,
yeah, see, and I've just got those. I guess I would be okay with that. The thing I don't fucking like is that you're baking a lot on the fact that CMC won't hurt.
Putting a lot of faith in there.
Yeah, and so I'm comfortable with, like I said, with the other 4 guys I had and then grabbing some of these guys later, just like you're saying. I still think because, and it's just, we're having a little bit of a different opinion on it, but because that top tier guy in there is, every one of them has a little bit of injury history behind them. Right?
Yeah.
Right? At least in my top 4. Bijan being the only guy who has
no
real injury
history.
All
of these running backs have injury history.
Right, but like these guys have actually like had serious injuries, and fucking like Barkley has torn shit up. Eckler's torn shit up. So, and they're all older, right? They're all a little bit fucking on the farther end of this shit. But that's where when I'm making that draft decision is like, okay, what I want is a guy that if McCaffrey goes down, do I have 2 to 3 other guys behind me? And as you're drafting in that, like, instead of maybe taking CMC, just my personal opinion on how I look at it, instead of taking CMC and then dropping all the way down here and being like, I'll take Sanders, I would rather be like, I'm going to go ahead and just wash one of these wide receiver 3s that I'm grabbing or thinking about grabbing as a bench guy, and I'll bop up and get like a Bigsby, a Madison, an Akers, and like keep just trying to pile on, like grab out of that just below the RB2 tiers, the guys that have potential for RB1, and get like 2 or 3 of those dudes just in case. Yeah. But yes, in theory, yeah, that's right. Like if you're getting CMC and you just kill the draft And every guy that's coming to you is like Tyreek, Olave, Garrett Wilson. I mean, and you're just, I can't fucking pass up on these guys.
Right.
Then yes, this is where you take the fucking risk, and that is where you then I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna grab Sanders. I'm gonna grab Brian Robinson, James Cook. Like I'm just taking fucking flyers at this RB2, and one of these guys is gonna stick. But it always doesn't happen like that. So always have that backup plan.
That's that dream draft that you never have. So let's go into kind of our third tier for you. It gets into that, like fringe RB2, fringe RB3-ish area where we have like Rashad White, Madison. For me, that's where I put Bigsby just because I was just hesitant. Then we have Dalvin, Brian Robinson, Khalil Herbert, and you kind of have Gibson in there, James Cook, Dillon.
Yeah, I have AJ Dillon in there because I do think he's probably just going to repeat what he's been doing, right? High end RB3, low end RB2 shit. Nothing's really changed there enough that's going to force him to get any better. But this kid is also 1 year away from Mike LaFleur saying, you're going to be the dude and you're going to score 10 more touchdowns than what anybody projects you to get because I'm going to feed you at the goal line. And then boom, he's a fucking mid RB2. So, and that's always been the.
You don't have that Hall of Fame quarterback at the 5-yard line that can just make like a little dump off pass or a little corner route. Like you're not as secure with Jordan Love. So you're going to put it more in the running back hand than you are the quarterback's hand.
And then with James Cook, like I had to throw him up in here. I didn't want to. I want to put him in the honorable mentions because I have no faith in this kid. But the fact that he is running all the downs with the starters in preseason, like how telling is that? He's not getting wrapped out. I think Latavius Murray came in for like a breather. It wasn't like we're swapping you guys out now. And there was a situation that Murray needed to come in. It was when he was in. Murray's done all his damage later after the first team has gone away. So I got to put James Cook in there. You can be all high and mighty on him if you want. I'm fucking not going to be, but he'll find something.
I have him even farther down, I think, than you do.
Yeah.
I have him in my second tier of the running back threes. With the same grouping as, Charbonnet, P. Ryan, Hunt, if he signs anywhere, Jalen Warren, Antonio Gibson, Rashad Penny, Devon Achane, Elijah Mitchell. It really starts to look at these like secondary running backs that are the second on their team, but really, really great running backs that just need the shot.
Yeah, and you mentioned Gibson. I have it up there. I've got Gibson and Brian Robinson right next to each other, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've been splitting flat out like series in the preseason. One guy goes out for one, and one guy goes out for the other. They haven't really shown that they're going to split these guys up too much. So kind of pair them together. And again, there's another situation like Dalvin and Brees, where your counterpart is going to eat into your fantasy production the same that they're eating or the way that you're eating into theirs, and you're just going to cancel each other out in the long run. Confused myself there for a second.
Yeah. Two snakes eating each other's tail.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no win.
Mm-hmm. I like Herbert too. We're getting into a lot of the committee guys, right? I like Herbert here because he did run all the reps with the first team all through preseason, but they also did show that they're going to give the ball to Roschon. Foreman got a little banged up here, but they still have other guys in that backfield. So I don't think they're going to just be like, Herbert, you're the new fucking bell cow.
You still have Fields. Like he's going to take some of that rushing upside away from those players.
Yeah, goal line work, anytime they're throwing the ball, the fact that you just take off rather than dump it off to Herbert, that shit's still in there.
Yep.
And then my honorable mentions, like you had just mentioned a lot of these guys I had in here. I got Charbonnet in the honorable mention, Jamal Williams, P. Ryan, Damian Harris, Penny, McKinnon, Hunt, Zeke, Jalen Warren, Achane, Mitchell, and Wilson. These are guys just to have in the back of your head. You're going to get these guys pretty late in drafts, some of them. Some of them stand out, like Achane, I think, is going a little bit high in draft because everybody's really excited.
Yep.
But quell that. I'd rather have Jeff Wilson.
And it started to drop just a bit because of his shoulder injury already.
Yeah, I would rather have Jeff Wilson on that offense this year in redraft and just let the Achane thing happen, see what goes on with that next year. I wouldn't get too far into that.
Well, last pick, I wouldn't mind. I mind the dice roll on Achane, but for most redrafts, you're not going to get him that late anymore.
Yeah, he's going way earlier than that. That's why I think Jeff Wilson this year in that backfield is probably the cheapest guy you can get in there, and that's who I'd probably target. So that's the guys we've got basically in the honorable mentions there. They're dudes you're not really targeting these dudes, but I'm telling you, man, if you're going to throw a dart at a dartboard, I would rather do it from 10 feet away than 20. And these are the guys we're talking about. These are 10-foot guys. get a good shot on these guys. They're going to give you some production. Worst case, they end up being dudes that you just ship off, right? Because nobody else paid attention and nobody else drafted these guys and stockpiled the bottom of their roster with
Or you wait for an injury to happen, trade them off for a second or a third, and see ya.
Yeah, imagine how disgusting. Like, Charbonnet's value increases monumentally if Kenneth Walker goes down for any extended period of time. Whether I like him the fuck or not, I will draft him under the idea that, yeah, I could take advantage of that.
Well, and that's what these early RB3s are. Like, they're your backup running backs that are a little bit more elite of athletic ability and talent, and injury happens, they just sit in the twos.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get this bad boy put up. I think the next things we've really got lined up that we need to get into is to finish off these fucking tiers. So you should see our tight end tiers next, because wide receivers are going to be a bitch. So that's going to take us a little bit of time to knock those out. Keep looking at our videos. I don't care if you watch the whole goddamn thing in one sitting or you watch it throughout a week, whatever. Keep watching us. We appreciate all the views we're getting. We appreciate all the likes we're getting. Keep bringing the comments. Shout out to Talon. He's always out there repping us, getting us out on Twitter, putting comments in there.
On the X.
Boom, baby. If you have not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit all the notifications so you're seeing everything we're putting out there. And again, if you like the video, please hit the like button. Come on, help us out. Get us moving through the algorithm.
I haven't told you yet, but I am going to be dropping a pre-season waiver the Tuesday before the first NFL game.
Fucking have fun with that.
But we look back in previous years, that's where you found the James Robinson. That's where you found players that make a difference because something happened, some injury.
Man.
But it's all a dart throw, but
yeah,
it starts. And that means we're also here at Fantasy Football Time. I'm ready to go.
Fuck yes. And keep this in mind too. Maybe not the next video. Maybe not the next video. Coming soon. Cranny's going to be coming out of the dungeon, out of the hat hanger. The boy's moving closer to work. Y'all are going to get me back a little bit more. I can't wait to be back. I've got more time in my life now to dedicate to this. The season coming up, it makes this really exciting for me. Be looking forward to things we're going to be putting out because this is going to get fucking hot.
And no more birds. All right.
Fucking birds.
Let's get out of here.
Peace.